Welcome to Saturday Morning Retro, episode 17, a podcast on the Rated G Network focused on retro gaming and giving ourselves an excuse to play our collection. I'm your host, Dave Vertino, and this is my co-host, Dan, the podcaster formerly known as Classic Robinson.
What's going on, man?
So,
listen, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Right? Happy Halloween. I think we have to say that we did happen to miss last month. It's the first time we've ever missed an episode of Saturday Morning Retro since we started it about a year and a half ago. So I just want to say that it's glad to be I'm glad to be back, and I'm happy that it's Halloween right now.
Well, just like when we were kids, it's like, oh, you can't watch Saturday. We got grounded last month, right? We had to do chores and do our homework.
That's right. We couldn't play video games.
We couldn't play video games.
Oh,
but
man.
We're back, and I'm glad we didn't miss October.
That's right.
This is the start of my favorite. I love the fall. I love Halloween season. Right, it gets you in the mood for the festivities.
That's right.
You got Thanksgiving and then Christmas. Right, like this is the best time of year.
Mm-hmm. So, good stuff. Football's going on right now. It's hoodie weather.
Well, it's football's going on right now, but it's really basketball season because the Jets and the Giants suck. So we're not going to talk about that. I mean, that's spooky in itself. Their records, their win-loss records is spooky.
It's a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street.
There you go.
But Dave, we have an awesome show this month, right? We're going to talk about Little Nightmares. I can't believe I actually played that game for this show because I hate spooky games. I love this season, but I hate spooky games.
I know you really hate spooky games.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a little game that I didn't even know anything about, and you're going to put me on to Friday the 13th for the Commodore 64.
That's right, not the NES version, the Commodore 64 version. Very different.
Totally different.
Very different.
But as we always like to start Saturday morning retro shows, this time in gaming history. And we're not going to go super, far in the past. We're going to go sort of in the recent past. This time in 2017, October 27th was a major, I want to say, not just in games, but in entertainment, right? It was just a major day in entertainment. We got Stranger Things Season 2 that was released, right? We got the sequel to Cloverfield that was on Netflix. It wasn't great, but it was hyped up being a sequel to Cloverfield. And then Jigsaw, we saw was dead, right? From the last 20 movies, and then out of nowhere, Jigsaw came out of nowhere, right?
Yep.
Which was technically a prequel that we didn't know about until spoilers for the movie if you haven't seen it 4 or 5 years ago. It turns out to be a prequel to all the Saw movies.
Right.
But video game wise, it was major because we had Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, Assassin's Creed Origins, and Super Mario Odyssey all released the same day.
And this technically counts as retro because these are all, the Switch technically is current generation, but Wolfenstein 2 and Assassin's Creed Origin all came out on last gen consoles, which in our eyes counts as retro. Just barely retro, but retro nonetheless. All right. And these are all AAA video games from 3 different franchises. All right. All coming out on the same day. That's kind of crazy. We never get that. All right.
That's true. When's the last time we had a Kanye versus 50 Cent or a Kanye versus Drake moment in video games where 2 games came out at the same time, let alone 3 games coming out at the same time to go up
and all massive games too, not new games or stuff you can look back on and go, oh yeah, that game is great now looking back at it. I don't know, man. I don't know. Wolfenstein 2 coming hot off the heels of the reboot of Wolfenstein yet again, the 3rd reboot, I think. In this case, they just keep rebooting it. Assassin's Creed Origin obviously has been around for ages, and Odyssey, in my eyes, is the best 3D Mario game, hands down. No contest.
I would agree with you on that note.
Right.
And I'm not gonna lie, Assassin's Creed Origins is my favorite Assassin's Creed game. I love playing Origins.
Yeah, I
To,
mean,
to this day, I still love like popping it in, and I guess I love the setting, right?
sure,
Like
the ancient
I think
Egypt.
the setting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the setting really gets me.
Hmm.
I wasn't a massive fan of Assassin's Creed Odyssey that so much, right?
The one that was in ancient Greece or Rome. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think my favorite, like Black Flag,
Oh, Black Flag
uh,
is the best.
Liberty, and Assassin's Creed Origins were my favorite like Assassin's Creed games.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Wolfenstein, I want to say Wolfenstein 2, not so much. I wasn't that big of a fan. I think it was a win for me that day because I got a game for each system, right? Because I got
Right.
Assassin's Creed for the Xbox, obviously
Hmm.
Mario Odyssey for the Switch, and I brought Wolfenstein 2 for the PS4. I ended up
Yeah.
playing more Odyssey than anything, and in Origins, just over time, I play Origins, and I barely played Wolfenstein 2 because it really just didn't capture me.
Oh my God, that's great. I don't know. Anytime you get to beat up Nazis is always a good time. I gotta say.
Always a good time.
You're the ultimate evil, right? Like who's gonna get upset about that? Nobody.
So, all right, Dave, I need to know: did you get any good pickups in the last not 1 month but 2 months?
Oh, I got pickups, Dan. Now I know you can see the list of games that I put down in this case, but I'm gonna tell you anyway because after the last episode I did, right? I think you were talking about Tron Evolution, and I think I mentioned that there was like a PSP version. Or you mentioned there was a PSP version, and I went and picked up a copy of that game.
Oh wow, did you play it yet?
No, because my PSP isn't working.
Oh, that sucks. Wait.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I got to get a new battery for it or something. I don't know. I got to see.
That is a common error. Like in PSP, like I have a new battery. Like, do you have the first one? Do you have like the first generation?
It's
PSP?
the PSP 2000. I think it's the second one. Really, what happened to it is, and this was back in the Best Buy day, not the Best Buy days, the Circuit City days. I had it, or actually, no. I had it after I went to Best Buy. So it was the Best Buy, yeah, right after Circuit City. But it was during that time, and I had it in my pocket, and I went to go pull it out, and I guess it got like kind of stuck on the hoodie, and after I like got a little force and pulled it out, it went flying into the subway tracks. And then, like, I looked over the edge. I looked to the left. I looked to the right. I said, okay. And I jumped down to get it. And it was all in pieces, right? Thankfully, the screen was okay, but the battery went flying and the back
Wait, you
case
jumped
went
on the
flying.
train tracks? You
Yeah,
literally
man.
No!
Yeah.
What do you think this is like? This is real life. It's not a video game. You actually jumped on the train tracks? You're
Yeah.
crazy.
And the train wasn't coming, so it was safe. The only issue
What
was...
happens if you can't pull yourself up?
Oh, well, let me finish the story. So like I get it, and then I'm trying to get back up, and I'm like, oh, this is a lot taller than you think. Like you can't just put one. You can't just put 1 foot up and go. So there was a guy standing by the edge, and he like put his hand out and said, oh, okay, yeah, cool, awesome. And I was like, thank you very much, and he was like, ah, yeah, no worries. There you go. And I got my my PSP back.
That was dumb. I just want to tell you.
So you're just gonna let $200 go? That's it?
No, well, okay. First of all, I dropped my Trio on the train tracks. The Long Island Railroad, though, not the normal subway.
Just as dangerous.
Yes. And I went and I found an attendant, and they got security, and they have like these long. I thought it was like I thought he had like a bat or something. It was like a long piece of wood, but it was like the jaws of life.
Yeah. It's got the little claw on the end, and you pick it up. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
To go pick it up off the tracks. Yeah.
So do you actually think I'd be able to find an attendant? And on top of that, an attendant who gives a shit. And on top of that, an attendant who gives a shit that has one of those magical claw items within the time of a train coming through.
Well, you would have had to wait an hour. I'm just saying. But
yeah, exactly. Or I could just jump down and get it. I just assessed the situation and got it.
Okay, listen.
But that's
All right, for everybody who's listening,
it's
if you're for younger listeners, don't do that if you're in any type of subway. Okay,
Oh my God.
don't do that. Call it.
Listen. Assess the situation, and you'll figure out what to do.
Assess the situation and call it attendant. Don't do.
Oh wait, it's gone. Then it's gone at that point. Like if you're gonna go out and get an attendant,
what is that? What is it like a rat gonna take it?
No. You know exactly what's gonna happen. Someone's gonna jump down there and get it, and then they're gonna have a $200 PSP.
No one's gonna jump down.
Yeah, you underestimate people in the city, Dad. Come on.
Well, we're from New York, so maybe somebody would, but maybe
exactly. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying.
Okay.
So anyway, I don't know. We're getting off track here. That was a little side note, but I have Tron for the PSP. Tron Evolution. That is my game.
Okay. So I got a lot of games.
Yeah.
That I've sort of cut the list down. Not even in half. I had to cut it in like 4 pieces.
So we're talking about the highlights here, the cream of the crop.
I was just gonna give it the highlights. So one is a side note. We both got which OLED. Okay, if you don't listen to the regular show, you just listen to the retro show. We both own Switch OLED devices. We both have Metroid Dread.
That's right.
And I did pick up them, and we both have the special edition with the art book and stuff. So that was awesome. I had to wait in line for 3 hours to get it. It was well worth it, gotta tell you. And I did get the amiibo to go with it, which I still haven't opened yet. And I do want to open it. It will be opened at some point. I'm not holding it. So that's that. But I did pick up Deathloop for the PS5.
Right.
Haven't played it yet. I don't know if it's a game for me, but I'm willing to give it a try.
But you still bought it.
I did buy it because I'm clamoring for more next-gen only games.
Yeah. You should definitely play it.
I spent all this money on a bundle to get a PS5. I want more next-gen games, so I definitely want to give it a try. I will give it a try at some point. I'm not, I just haven't had a chance to because we've been so busy with other things, life, and, setting up all the shows, so I haven't had a chance to play it, but I definitely do want to play it. I didn't realize that there were so many Katamari games out there.
Katamari?
Yeah.
Katamari.
Yeah. I didn't know there were so many Katamari games. What did I say? Oh, Katamari. It was Katamari. I didn't know there was so many. I thought it was just the maybe 2 games.
No. 2 games on the PS2. Yeah.
Yeah, when you got Beautiful Katamari. I picked that up for the Xbox 360, and then you got We Love Katamari for the PS2. There's so many Katamari games out there. Who knew you could make so many games about just rolling in a ball and and picking stuff up as you roll?
Right. And then there's also the remake, Katamari Reroll on the Switch, right? PSP's got a version. Mobile's got a version.
But that was hard. That was hard to get for a while.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
That was hard to get, and I actually did pay somewhat of an eBay price for a used game that I did get new eventually. But Beautiful Katamari, Katamari Damacy Reroll, Touch My Katamari, and We Love Katamari. So those are all the Katamari games I own for different systems. Who knew that they came out for the PS Vita? I have that.
Yep.
Dark Cloud 2 had the original, had to get the sequel to it. Going up there in price, but it is an action RPG. So I love my action RPGs. Not that I love it, but I would give an action RPG more of a chance than I would a turn-based RPG because that's just not my jam. I'm not going to spend the money for that. Guilty Gear X2 for the OG Xbox. Devil King for the PS2. Didn't know this existed. I thought this was like a Devil May Cry game. Totally not that. I definitely want to play it for one of our Saturday morning retro shows. So that's why I picked it up.
Okay. I know nothing about this game.
That makes 2 of us. But I did find it cheap in the store, and I was like,
"Oh my god,
man, it's going for a little bit of money, not like crazy expensive." But I picked it up for like $10. Destroy. I thought there was only Destroy All Humans 1 and 2 on the OG Xbox, right? Apparently, that's not true. There's Destroy All Humans 1 and 2, and there's a Destroy All Humans for the Wii, and you have Destroy All Humans Path of Furon for the 360, which I did pick up. I have that.
Yeah, I also thought there was just the 2. Huh. Interesting.
Apparently, they're like 4 or 5 games
Well,
altogether.
yeah.
The Crew 2 for the Xbox One. I have that.
Mm-hmm.
And Tetris DS for the DS, where you can play in Super Mario, different Super Mario settings, right? You can play in Mushroom Kingdom and stuff like that. Like, so I thought that was pretty cool, and I had to pick that up. So I have the complete edition.
Nice.
Well, yeah, case and there's no manual, but those the inserts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I got some good pickups. I mean, that's just a quarter of what I picked up in the last 2 months. I'm slowly creeping up to 5,000. I'm at 40. I'm at like 4630 right now.
Okay.
Less than 400 away from 5,000. So hopefully I'll hit that at some point next year. You never know.
Oh, you never know. No, I know, Dan. You're definitely gonna hit that next year.
So Dave,
guaranteed.
This is a segment that I love. It's dear to my heart. That we do almost every Saturday morning retro, and that's the Triple R, where we pick a game from the past and we ask, do we want to remaster, remake, or recycle? So Dave, this month, what's your Triple R?
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay. Well, in the spirit of all things spooky, I want a remake or a remaster of the Splatterhouse trilogy.
Ooh.
Right? Take the original 3, right? It was, I think the first one on TG TurboGrafx, and the second 2 and 3 were on Genesis, if I remember correctly.
They were.
It was an arcade game, which I never actually saw in the arcade, but it was definitely an arcade game in Japan. Pretty sure it was an arcade game in the States. The North American version and the Japanese version are very different. So, in kind of a
in the Japanese version, you can play as Jason.
I mean, well, he's got the white mask, yeah, which is why they changed it for the American shores, right? Yeah, he's got a red mask. So, and it kind of, like, I get it, they didn't want to get sued, but and they also got rid of the American version, got rid of all the religious iconography. So when you're like going through the church, it doesn't like look like a church. They took everything out of it, right down to the altar, right? You like in the Japanese version, there's an altar with like candles on it, right? And it's real kind of creepy. In the American version, it's just candles and they're just floating. It's really weird. True. So I want kind of a special Triple R. So I want the trilogy remastered, right? All in one package, right? Put them all together. Yeah. I think it'd be kind of cool with a little bit of history and save states and everything else that comes along with like a remaster, updated resolution and all that. Just some kind of niceties in there. And I know you can play them on like they're just like straight up ports. Like I think you can get them for the Switch or in like the Wii shop or whatever. Right? They have them, and I think you can unlock them in the Splatterhouse reboot that came out in like, I don't know, 09, 010 or whatever. But that's not the same thing. I want a nice package with everything in it.
Okay. Well, yeah. There were technically, so altogether, I think there were 5 Splatterhouse games. So there were the original 3. Yeah. First one, TurboGrafx-16, and the other 2 that were on the Genesis. Right. And then you had the Famicom version.
There was the Chibi one, yeah.
There's the Chibi one, which I do own. It's like one of the 4 or 5 Famicom games that I own. Yep. And then you had the remake that came out for 360 and the PS3.
Which did terrible.
Did terrible, and I spoilers for next year's Saturday Morning Retro in October. I'm probably going to pick that game because I do own it for the 360.
Yeah, I mean,
I do love that series, even though I am no good at that game. But I always, you want to talk about the college try? I'm giving it the PhD try because I always love to try to play that game, and I always get a little bit further than I do. Like I spend hours trying to, because those games are balls hard. Like the original trilogy, super hard.
Oh yeah,
because they were arcade games at first, and they want to eat your quarters. So
yep.
I just love the setting, and I love,
Oh yeah, it's super cool going through that
you know,
crazy
side
like haunted
scroller.
house.
I just wish it was more of a platformer, if
Mm-hmm.
anything, than sort of a scary beat 'em up.
Sure, sure.
So good choice, good choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go old school, still spooky, and pick Halloween, the Atari 2600 game. I want to recycle. So I want to take the idea of this 2600 game that can be up there in price if you're trying to get it right now.
Oh, it is. It's like $200
Yeah, it is
for a loose
not
copy.
cheap.
No,
It is not cheap.
no.
But I don't.
I didn't
wanna
even know it
recycle
existed. To be honest.
Well, you know what? I was thinking about it. We got Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yep.
We got Friday the 13th. You know, video games for all these, you know, movies. What's a movie, or for Alien? We got video games for Aliens. What's like a scary movie that we don't have a video game for? And that was like Michael Myers, right?
Yep.
And then I went looking, and it's like Michael Myers has been in video games, but he hasn't had his own game since I think 1983 Halloween on the Atari, or 82 on the Atari. Didn't know this game existed, but I want a cheesy recycle of this game. I want an NES style game where we take a protagonist that no one's ever heard of, a protagonist that's not in the movies, and you can shoot projectiles for some odd reason, because you got to gamify it, right?
Yeah,
just
of
like
course.
on
Of course.
Nightmare on Elm Street, you're shooting projectiles for some weird reason, and you have creatures coming at you, ghosts and goblins and stuff, that probably should be an AVGN episode where it's like, why these are kids dressed in Halloween costumes, obviously, but they're coming at you because they're like minion enemies where you can just easily dispose of them by shooting projectiles or jumping on their head or something like that. But the point of the game is you have to get away from Michael Myers. He is chasing you, and you have to get away, or maybe you have to rescue somebody, which is actually, funny enough, the plot of Halloween Atari 2600 game. You are like the babysitter, and you have to rescue 5 kids to get away from Michael Myers.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
But I want an NES style Halloween game.
Okay. I could see that. I could see that being cool, being like a retro throwback style game, right? But made like today. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can put it out on physical with limited run.
Oh, I mean, of course. That's a given, Dan. That's a given. Yeah, you know, I'm surprised there's not more Halloween licensed games. I know that Michael Myers is in Dead by Daylight. He's a playable villain, as well as Pyramid Head, and I think Pinhead, and a couple other licensed properties. But he's never gotten his own game necessarily, or a game where you can like beat up Michael Myers. So yeah, I'm 100% about this.
So I was reading an article on Facebook that was like somebody had posted from a publication, and I got to look it back up, but I didn't I didn't know, I didn't have it ready for the show, because I was just thinking about it. Is the Michael Myers mask based on William Shatner? Is Michael Myers wearing a William Shatner mask?
What do you mean?
The mask that Michael Myers, so Jason's wearing a hockey mask, an old school hockey mask.
Right.
I read an article where it was William Shatner's reaction when he first saw when he saw the first Halloween movie,
that it looked
where
like
Michael
him?
Myers is wearing a William Shatner mask. The mask he's wearing is William Shatner's face.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. They actually just put out, funny enough, if you know the Netflix show, The Movies That Made Us, just like the toys that made us. And they have a thing about Halloween and how they made it and all that. They didn't specifically say that the mask was based on William Shatner. I think they just got like a random mask from a toy store or whatever. And
it was first of all, it was. I'm looking it up now. It was IGN. William Shatner reveals his reaction to his face. To his face becoming Michael Myers' Halloween mask. Apparently, he thought it was a joke. That he thought they were kidding him. Apparently.
Huh. Okay. Wow. Well, that's weird. All right. That's kind of weird.
That is weird. You know what? As a kid, I was terrified because again, I hate spooky games. Even though I loved the original Resident Evil as a kid, I guess I was braver as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I love watching the B scary movies, right? And at this point, because all these like Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason, Halloween, they all made their mark in the early 80s. I wasn't born yet or I was like 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see them later on until the sequels, the fourth installments became cheesy, right?
Well,
sort of B movie level, at that
everything
point.
after the first one was pretty terrible, with the exception of the latest like trilogy to come out. That kind of
and I never realized that Jason was wearing a hockey mask and Michael Myers was wearing like sort of like a costume mask.
Right.
I just thought they both were wearing like a mask. I was just like, this is terrible. And then later on, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's a hockey mask, and he's wearing like literally a Halloween mask over his face.
Oh yeah. Costume mask. It's crazy.
Yeah, didn't know he was William Shatner apparently.
Huh. Well, there you go. I learned something today, Dan. Thank you.
So, all right, when we take a break, when we come back, we're going to jump into our backlog and talk about Little Nightmares and Friday the 13th for the Commodore 64. And we're back. All right, Dave, let's dive deep in our backlog and let's talk about some spooky retro games. Okay, let me go first because I'm gonna preface by saying retro to us is anything that came out last generation. Okay, that's we had to have straight definitions for this.
That's right. Can't do a decision. Anything that's not current generation is retro.
Correct. Right. It's just not super retro, like the Atari is like super retro. But if this is like an original Xbox One game, yeah. If the beta machine Xbox One game, it's retro. I'm sorry. My game this month is Little Nightmares. Okay. Made by Tarsier Studios, published by Bandai Namco. Their game originally came out on the Xbox One, PS4, April 28th, 2017, which was a little weird in my view. Games like this, why don't they keep it for the fall, right? Like, first of all, I think games like Little Nightmares should come out in October. But
you gotta theme it, right? Theme it with the holiday. Yeah.
At least come out around October, right? Like I don't want it to come out in September, but I can see it coming out in September in preparation for October, right?
Sure.
But not like don't come out in April. That doesn't make any sense. But it could have been a thing, with the publisher Bandai Namco and stuff. And
sure,
the Switch version came out a year later, and this also came out on Stadia. I think in June of the same year. It's a puzzle platformer survival horror game, and I played it on the Xbox One. I gotta be honest, I brought the special edition when it first came out because you sort of get like these postcards, you get the game, and then you get the little figure of the protagonist, which is in sort of like a yellow raincoat that reminds me of the beginning of It.
I was gonna say, right, with the little kid in the sailboat. Yeah.
That's exactly. I thought when I first saw this gameplay, I was like, "Is this like an It game?"
Oh, right.
Like that's exactly what I thought it was. But a little background, like the team behind it they're trying to make sort of a game where they wanted to explore sort of a horror game in the eyes of like a child, right? That comes from like a childhood, they pull from their childhood to see a horror game in their, from a child's perspective. And that makes total sense if you look at this game, right? Because your protagonist is super, super tiny, super small, like the size of like a gnome in this like big giant world. And it's, a side scroller. You go left from right. It is a 2.5D game. And I kind of, the story, I thought the story would sort of get a hold of me a little bit more than it did, right? I mean, the story, which it's weird if you actually get into the story, it is kind of crazy. You're the protagonist. You play as this little girl that's 9 years old. That's her name is Six, and she has a yellow raincoat, and she wakes up from a dream, and the only thing that she's armed with a lighter, because there are a lot of scenes in the game, or a lot of places in the game that are dark, so you need that lighter to bring light, and there are candles that you can light up, right? Mm-hmm. And you're stuck on a ship named Ma, where kids are being killed and eaten by the ship crew.
Oh, sure. That's okay. That's a plot.
There's no there's no actual voice acting in this. Like, well, as far as like speech goes, right? There's a lot of ahs and uhs and groans and moans.
Okay.
Right? It's more environmental storytelling from the environment. Like, especially when it's 5 levels. When you get sort of to the later levels, you're trying to escape and get freedom. That's the whole purpose of the game. And you're like, outside the ship, and you're trying to climb up the anchor, the chain of the anchor that holds the anchor. You see the people getting on the boat. So it's all environmental storytelling. When you see, oh man, I'm on a boat, right? Some levels, in some stages, like you're rocking back and forth because it's reminds you're on an actual boat. You're on a ship. So that makes sense. This game is super spooky, super scary. It's not jump scary though. I gotta say, like, there's no like jump scares.
Atmospheric scary? Is that?
Yes, okay. Exactly the word I was looking for.
Okay.
Yes, 100%. I mean, the game is similar to Inside and Limbo, right? Where it's 2.5D in a 2.5D world. I mean, the whole game, you're traversing the world, trying, platform elements, and occasionally you're blocked by puzzles that you got to solve, which can be a little annoying because it's like the puzzles can be a little bit more obtuse. I want to say, you playing it, like, just the game gave me vibes of Tim Burton, right? Like, those
okay,
yeah. Like, I was like, this is like a Tim Burton. I could have sworn like Tim Burton had a hand in the game, but he didn't.
He had something to do with it.
That's the vibe that it gives you, right? And something I was really impressed with was the sound. It does have like sort of subtle spooky music, but it really lets the environment, from a sound standpoint, tell the story as well. Like, you can hear all the groans, you can hear the drip, the leaky faucet, you can hear.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, like when you drop stuff, you hear it, and they use that as a gameplay mechanic too, because a lot of like the monsters, and I say monsters, but like ship crew who are shaped like monsters, which brings you back to that the childhood perspective, right? That child's perspective, a small child who is in a scary place thinks everything is everybody are monsters, which they are monsters
because they're all strangers. And
they're probably monsters more so on the inside, not the outside, but from a child's perspective, right? Especially like there's this one early on, so I can talk about it. I'm not going to spoil sort of the ending, but early on, like, there's like a monster that is blind, that has long arms. So I sort of nicknamed him Daddy Long Arms, because he's just feeling. He's trying to find you and feel you, and if you make noise, he's coming at you, right? So you have to hide and stop moving and let him go, and then you have to go and try to find a way out. And that's a lot of this in this game, but that's where the noise aspect comes into play, right? Like, if you drop something, it cracks and it breaks, like,
it's going to alert. Yeah.
It's going to alert the monster in that area, and it's going to come towards you, right? So, so that's where sort of, again, environmental storytelling, sound storytelling comes into place. This is not a game you want to play at 2 a.m. by yourself in the dark. Because I did it. Yeah, I did. I didn't listen. I'm not a spooky game person. You know it.
Yeah, you're dedicated, Dan. That's what that means. You're dedicated.
So, what most excited me about this game, I want to say, is the puzzle elements, because it is sort of a puzzle platformer at heart. And I love my puzzle. I love my platformers, and and trying to figure out, like, Unraveled is like, it's in the vein of Unraveled and the Unraveled series. where you have to figure out how to get past this stage. There's something here that you have to do. You got to jump here, pull this lever, and go across. Like, you got to figure that part out to get through. And I love those type of games. But I can also hate those type of games where they're in a 2.5D setting, right? I hated the fact that, you know, where you can, you know, you're in this environment and it's at the forefront and you can go, you know, traverse the land behind it, right? In the background, you can, in certain levels, you can go and climb the wall behind you. That's all the way behind you. But when you do stuff like that, like just like Mario 64, right? When you're trying to run on sort of like, you know, a rope, or you're trying to run, you know, you're trying to sort of keep your balance there. It could be bad where you're trying to get to point A to point B that's like behind you, and you fall and you keep falling, and you're like trying to figure out, oh my God, I got to go super slow to you know, to get to the next point.
Right.
You have to be very precise in some of your jumps, in some of your platforming, right? Because again, it's not just side scrolling. You can go in the background behind you in certain areas where you have to, and you got to climb this rope, and you're trying to climb the rope, and you think you're climbing the rope, but you're really pushing forward, and you jump off by accident, and it's annoying. So it does have some clunky controls in that they did sort of semi-fixed in the second one, but I'm not going to talk about the second one.
Right.
Just this one in itself, the controls needed to be tightened up, and they weren't. And some of the puzzles were a little bit too obtuse for me towards the later stages. But I thought this game was great for what it was, right? Because again, I didn't have jump scares. Everybody was up front, in your face. You saw Daddy Long Arms, as I call them. you saw the two twin chefs that looked terrible. They were terrible. I mean, they look great art style wise, but
they're just really frightening. Yeah. They were very up front, so there were no jump scares in this game. Okay. I thought this game holds up well, and will hold up going forward. Just, you know, again, the platforming, you need to be very precise. Other than that, everything else holds up. Okay. I love this. I didn't love it. I really liked this game. Okay. And apparently everybody else did too. I mean, on Metacritic, right, the PS4 version, because apparently they were only in Metacritic for PS4 and PC versions. PS4 version got a 78. The PC version got an 80. Nice. User scores about an 81. Right. They got 37 positive reviews, 13 mixed, and 2 negatives. Right. The best score it got was a 95 from Let's Play Video Games. And Slant Magazine gave it the worst score it got, which was a 30. And I quote from the review: "Little Nightmares is irrelevant of wax it's the equivalent of a wax fruit, right? Beautiful to look at from a distance, but disappointing up close, and ultimately functionless." Ooh. And they're really talking about the mechanics in the game. Okay. That I talked about. So, if I had to give it a score, I give it a solid 7. Okay. Well, I was gonna say you have to, because that's part of the show. If I would give it a score, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. And this game you can still get brand new for $30 on Amazon on any platform: Switch, PS4, or Xbox. Not bad. There is DLC for this that you can get the complete edition with DLC, well, all the DLC, which is, you could beat this game, by the way, in about 4 to 5 hours. And they added DLC, which I think is about 2 to 3 hours as well, where you play as another kid stranded on the ship, right? Oh, I don't have the complete edition. I only played the regular game, so I can't speak to the DLC. Right. Okay. Cool. Well, let me tell you about my game, Dan. Oh, Friday the 13th. Well, let me go ahead and set the stage of a little bit of info on the game, like we do. All right, game came out, North American release in 1985, developed and published by Domark, which I'm pretty sure isn't around anymore. Came out for the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC, and the ZX Spectrum. It is a action survival horror game, I guess. I'm quoting from the Wikipedia article on this. So, and I played on the C64 via the Vice emulator on my PC because I do not own a Commodore 64 or a Commodore 64 mini console. So.
As a side note, Domark closed their doors in 96.
96, okay, there you go. So they had a good 10 plus year run.
83 to 96.
There you go. Primarily, I'm pretty sure they were a European company, if I'm not mistaken. Considering they made games for the ZX Spectrum, most likely, I think they are. But,
the last game they made was Total Mayhem.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so this is
for Microsoft Windows.
Oh, there you go. So this is Friday the 13th. It is not the NES version made by I guess LGN. Very, 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 very different game. Although it is obviously based off the same property. It's based off the Slasher series, right? And the general conceit of this game is that you're at Camp Crystal Lake. But funny enough, there's no lake on the map.
No lake? How does that work?
No, and I'll get into a little bit more about all that stuff. But basically, Jason's on the loose, right? It's like it's your standard plot of any of the movies, right? Jason comes to Camp Crystal Lake or comes out of the ocean and starts killing people and whatnot. And basically, you have to go around the map, right? And there's like a church where you always start out in the church. You can go to the farmhouse. You can go to a family home, and you can kind of explore the camp and the campgrounds, the countryside, right? And you have to find Jason, right? That's kind of the conceit of this game, right? And I do have to give a little backstory on this game because we had this game growing up. We had a Commodore 64 in the house, right? And we had a ton of games. Because it's very easy to pirate for the Commodore 64, or at least it was, and you get the disc copy software, and you take the disc and you keep swapping floppies, right? You swap the game for a blank disc, and it just writes all the information over. It's very easy to do, right? So we had like a ton of games, and one of those was Friday the 13th, and I remember my brother playing it from time to time, and I was like, I was like a little too kind of like, I don't know if I should play this or not, right? And then I was like, one day I popped the game in, decided to play it, and my God, this game still to this day gives me chills, Dan. All right? When you talk about games being scary, like this game, I had to sleep with the light on, Dan. I was so afraid.
Was it that serious? Oh, wow.
I'm telling you, Dan. I'm telling you, it was that serious. It is that serious. It's not was. It is that serious. So
you still gotta sleep with the light on.
I mean, I was okay this time around because, I think I've managed to get over the trauma. But
you could play Resident Evil 7 in VR, but this game makes you sleep.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's not the more realistic the visuals, the scarier it is. That's not what it is. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but do you ever just kind of see something and you get really creeped out by it? Right? Whether it's like low grade visuals or I don't know, you're walking through a park in the middle of the day and something just kind of hits you. It's just, I don't know. It gives me like a weird, creepy, eerie vibe. And so let me kind of get into the gameplay a little bit, the graphics and the sound and whatnot, because maybe that'll kind of set the stage a little more. So you play as one of 10 random camp kids, right? Which is a little like the NES version, right? But it's like randomly selected, right? And you have to find and kill Jason before he kills everyone else and ultimately tries to kill you, right? Jason is disguised as one of the camp kids. So you don't know who Jason is, right? And Jason will randomly run around and start killing people, right? You may see him kill somebody on screen, most likely not, because there's a lot of different screens and all the different houses and churches you can go into. So there's like a lot of areas where he could be, and he's always walking around, and he's always got a weapon, and he's always chopping people's heads off, right? And every now and again, like, you'll hear this loud, blood-curdling scream, like just like blaring out of the speaker, right? Sends chills down your spine, right? And you know Jason is killed, right? And then you'll see at the bottom of the screen, like, somebody's character will turn into a gravestone, and you're like, oh shit, right? And every time that happens, like, your kind of sanity meter goes up, I guess, or down maybe in this case, right? Your hair starts like coming on end because you're getting all like freaked out because Jason's killing people, right? So you start getting like real unnerved. And I think when that gets to a point, then it's like game over. Or if he kills you, it's game over, right? So you gotta go and find a weapon, right? There's like chainsaws and axes and pitchforks, and you can pick up all these different weapons. You got to get a weapon real quick, and you got to go around. You got to start hitting the kids to uncover Jason, right? You got to basically like pull the mask off, but you do that by like hitting him with a weapon. And if you hit the right person, you'll see him turn to black, right? He wears like a black outfit in this game, right? And you're like, oh shit, it's Jason, right? And then you just got to beat the crap out of him until he dies, right? That's the general conceit. That's basically the whole entire game. And you do that, and then you play as a different character. And you do it all over again, right? You got to go and find Jason around. So that's essentially the game in the nutshell, all right? There's 5 rounds. I think when the 5 rounds are over, you beat the game. Then I think you can keep going. You go back to stage 1 again, and then you can just like keep racking up your score. But yeah, that's essentially the game, man. That's essentially the game. So graphically, it's very atmospheric, right? It does a lot of mood setting with like the graphics, right? They're not the best Commodore 64 graphics, but they are good for what it is, right? You get kind of weeping willow trees and, you know, the church with the stained glass windows and all that. And, you know, the farmhouse has like the bales or the bales of hay sitting around, right? You know, and the house has like all the different rooms in it. You know, it's kind of creepy. There's like an archery range and some other stuff you can walk by. Like it's definitely like, it definitely gets the mood right. All right. And then sound wise, you get such classics as the Teddy Bear Picnic and Old MacDonald. Yeah. The Teddy Bear Picnic. Yeah, it's surprisingly creepy given the game. All right, you're just sitting there and it's like, and then you'll just hear like the loud screech of Jason killing somebody off in the woods, and you're like, oh my god.
But I thought so from some of the, you know, the videos I saw, because I haven't played this because I never owned a Commodore 64. Right. I do own a Commodore 64 Mini. I don't know if the game is on there though.
It's not, because it's a licensed property. But
yeah,
you could sideload it. Yeah,
but it looks like you're the one that's chasing Jason, at least from the videos I saw.
Well, you
go to the church to get a weapon, which looks like an axe or a broom, you know, because Commodore 64 games look like Atari games.
Yeah. It has kind of minimalist graphics. It was doing the best that it could with what it had at the time. And I think it did. I think it did a pretty good job. It could have fleshed out the gameplay a little bit more on like that standpoint. I mean, you know, we can kind of get into that a little bit, but yeah. Like the atmosphere is really the thing that kind of gets me.
So you're chasing Jason? Are you chasing Jason?
Well, you have to find him before time runs out and before he kills everybody. So that's like kind of the timer. And there's also like a skull there, which acts like a timer. And then if the skull gets fully formed, then it's like game over. So you do want to get him, and also you want to get him and save the other camp counselors, because you get a better score for everybody who's left alive at the end of the level. So
well, okay. Maybe get next to this question. When I was watching the video, on the bottom left hand side, it looked like weights, right? It looked like this long stick with 2 round blue balls.
That's your health.
Okay, that's the health meter. Okay,
That's
I
the
didn't know
health
that.
meter.
I didn't know what
Yeah.
that was. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a stamina or health or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well,
Then
why
you- then
would
you-
they why don't they just make like a regular health meter? Why do they have like
I don't
something that
know.
looks like weights?
They wanted to be different. Yeah, I think that's what it was supposed to be. Yeah, I guess they just wanted to be different. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that different kids have different abilities. Like some of them walk faster, some of them have more health.
That's true.
Yeah,
I can see that.
yeah.
Okay.
So they like kind of mix it up a little bit. I think really what they could do is they could expand on that concept to make each character actually more unique and give them maybe more special abilities and maybe kind of like beef up the fighting aspect a little bit and kind of put some more options in there, maybe kind of vary it up a little bit, cuz at the core, like I think it's pretty solid, like in terms of the setup and the sound design and the visuals. I think they really set up something cool, but you basically experience the game within like 5-10 minutes, and you're like, oh, okay, and it's really just a high score chase at that point.
So so just again from the videos that I watched, it looked like you would hit people with the hatchet to see if they would change.
Yep, because Jason is basically wearing a disguise. So he's hidden as one of the camp counselors. I know. Oh. Yeah. He's hidden as one of the camp counselors. Because, I mean, that if you don't have that, then you really don't have a game. And you're like, oh, there he is.
That happened in the movie. He was a shapeshifter.
Exactly.
I will admit that the sound, listening to the game, it was kind of like spooky, at least for the time. I could see, because this to me, this looks like an Atari game, right? Because I had no idea Commodore 64 even existed until I became an adult. So if you would have just showed this to me, I would have thought this was an Atari game. So this has sort of like that Atari graphics and aesthetics. Okay, again, this is what I said. I wanted the Halloween Atari 2600 game to be, right? Like I wanted it to be more of an NES style, old school game where the protagonist had nothing to do with the movie. Like, again, that's that cheesy stuff that I want, where Jason is in disguise, which didn't really happen in the movie.
Right.
Spoilers.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. I would say it doesn't quite hold up. Like the atmosphere 100% I think is like incredible. Like if you made a modern game with that sound chip, like the SID chip, and those kind of like chunky old school visuals, I think you could really have something if you just fleshed out the gameplay a little bit. It doesn't necessarily have to be licensed to anything in particular. Like, I mean, this game, honestly, if you didn't know it was Friday the 13th, you'd be a little hard pressed to know, right? Because the only thing that tells you it's Friday the 13th is the name and the title screen with like the knife in the Jason mask, all right? Because otherwise it would just be like a random horror game for the Commodore 64, which I think would still be kind of cool, but maybe not. Maybe wouldn't be as well known. But yeah. So because this game is very old, this is pre-Metacritic. Surprise. So I was able to find some reviews. All right. Now I mentioned before that it came out for the ZX Spectrum and the Amstrad CPC and the Commodore 64. And I think it may have also come out for the Sinclair. So the one C64 review from Zap, ZZAP exclamation point 64, they gave it a 13% out of 100, which I think is pretty unfair, right? It's at least 50%. It was a fun time. I remember having a fun time back in the day. It was a fun pick up and play action game. It's a high score chase and whatnot with some like creepy visuals and great sound design. So I think 13% is a little harsh. Your Sinclair magazine gave it a 3 out of 10. Crash magazine, which is a ZX Spectrum magazine, gave it a 3 out of 10. And Sinclair User gave it a 4 out of 10.
They got terrible reviews, so basically got terrible.
I mean, it did. I think they were all a little bit harsh on this, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I didn't actually get to.
Are you sure? Are you sure that it's not that they're being harsh, but you have nostalgia for this?
Well, I will say that because I looked up the other versions and they're much worse. The Amstrad CPC version is terrible. All right. And the C64 version definitely is the best out of this. So look, I'm admitting the gameplay is a little bit thin. So I'm not necessarily saying that the game is great by any means. I just think it has really good atmosphere and whatnot. The gameplay is fun for what it is. You don't get a lot out of it is all there is, you know. If you're going to spend, I don't know, the equivalent of whatever $60 is today on the game, you may be a little bit upset because, it's just a high score chase and whatnot. But then again, it's, Galaga was a high score chase and Centipede was a high score chase, and that's all the game was. So,
you're playing more than $60 for this game.
Well,
because this was sort of like a cassette game, right?
It came on cassette, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you want the European version, you can. I can get you the France version on eBay.
How much?
US dollars, $192.
Ooh, so there you go. If you want to get this game, you want to get the European version on eBay right now for $192. Jesus. Well,
but it got bad reviews. But Dave, what score would you give it out of 10?
I am going to give this game a 6 out of 10.
Ooh, okay.
Gotta be fair.
Double the score of all the other reviewers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets very high marks for atmosphere, 100%. Sound design and graphics, all on point. Oh, not to mention, every now and again, when you enter a screen and there's a dead body on the ground, they will sometimes flash up the equivalent of a FMV cutscene. It's just a single still image, and it'll either be a bunch of skeletons, or it'll be a dude with a cleaver stuck in his head and blood coming down. So they do that too, just randomly. You never know. You enter a new screen, see a dead body, bam!
For the time. Again, you have to take it back for the time. And I would have been totally scared because looking at the videos, the sound mostly got me.
Yeah.
Right?
Crazy.
Like I probably would have been, because I didn't like spooky games back then, but I was more into spooky games then than I am now. I probably would have played the heck out of this game, but I would have been kind of like, oh my God, he's coming. I got to find Jason, right? Because the timer's running out and I got to find him.
Yeah.
So I could see why you would need I could see why you would have needed to sleep with the light on.
Dude,
right?
It was
for the time.
News. It was
for the
bad
time.
News.
Yeah. So I can see why you would give it a 6.
Oh. So, yeah, there you go. All
right.
Well, I think that about wraps up our Halloween episode of Rated G for Gamers. And we want to thank you guys for listening to the show and doing all the good stuff that you guys do, liking and commenting and all that. If you want to interact with us, and we know that you do, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Rated G for Gamers. Also, we are part of the Gaming Podcast Alliance. So check out all of the fine podcasts featured on there at gamingpodcastalliance.com for more gaming goodness. So please listen, like, rate, review, and subscribe. And as always,
keep gaming.